The following program is a part of Black Squirrel Entertainment.
This week, we've got 7 Marvel vs. Capcom games with Marvel, Capcom, or Marvel vs. Capcom.
And Kingdom Hearts. All Systems Go starts right now.
Greetings, and welcome back to another episode of ASG, the only show that is cultured enough to be enjoyed by no one. I'm well-acclaimed Wyatt.
And I'm Sophisticated Sammy. Let's get started. Annapurna, the company behind the beloved cat game Stray, has definitely seen better days. All 25 members of the Annapurna Interactive team have officially resigned. This came after the president of Annapurna Interactive resigned due to a difference in business opinions. Nathan Gary, president of Annapurna Interactive, had been negotiating with Megan Ellison, the owner of Annapurna Studio, to have Annapurna Interactive become its own entity, independent of Annapurna Studios. When Ellison dropped out of negotiations, Gary and all of his staff resigned, leaving Annapurna Interactive with no employees. I am all in favor of Gary and his team for standing up for themselves and hope the best for everyone who left their job.
Typically, stores are robbed for paper, but this store got robbed for expensive paper. A local hobby store in Osaka, Japan that exclusively sells Pokemon cards was recently the victim of an armed robbery. According to the police report, the thieves weren't very educated on their mark and told the cashiers to bring them the most expensive cards they had. Props for creativity. The thieves made off with the equivalent of 70,000 USD in cards and 250,000 yen in cash. Apparently, this trend of robbing secondhand card stores has been on a consistent rise since 2021, so card shops remain vigilant.
Do any of y'all remember that cringy bird game from 2010 when you had to dodge Mario pipes with precision tapping? That's right, gamers, Flappy Bird is making a return. The Flappy Bird Foundation has officially acquired the trademark to Flappy Bird from Game Tech Holdings LLC. Unfortunately, the game has appeared to land in the hands of crypto lovers. It is currently unknown how this love of crypto will affect the game. There is, however, a reported feature that will be a part of the Notcoin blockchain. The use of cryptocurrency will not be required to play. Original creator Dong Nguyen went on record to say, "No, I have no related with their game. I did not sell anything. I also don't support crypto. All I can say is yikes."
Microsoft is back at it. The company has reportedly let go of some 650 employees in corporate and success functions. According to a memo sent by Xbox chief Phil Spencer, no games or projects are being closed and no studios are being shut down. Combined with the studio recently laying off 1,900 employees and shutting down Hi-Fi Rush developer Tango Gameworks and Redfall developer Arcane Austin, the studio has let go of a combined 2,550 employees since acquiring studio Activision Blizzard, so it must have been a good decision. Here's to hoping these former employees find more meaningful work soon in the future.
The Sims has once again ruined my day. If there is one thing I know all Sims 4 players hate, it is the DLC. Constant DLC after DLC shoved down our throats. Well, my friends, it is getting worse. Instead of making a new game, Electronic Arts is instead going to continue to monetize The Sims 4. That is right, they will beat the dead horse that is The Sims 4 until they have sucked every single penny they can out of that 10-year-old game. One fortunate thing to come out of this is that Electronic Arts is allowing players to sell their own in-game content through the EA store. Think the Skyrim Creation Club. EA, please, make a new game. EA, I am begging you. Stop selling me DLCs, I will cry.
ASG is starting a collaboration with the Kent State ESports this semester, so from this episode on, we will give updates on the results for the week. To recap the results of Week 2, last Tuesday, the Golden Flashes won 2 out of 3 Valorant matches against Northern Illinois University, maintaining 4th place in the standings. On Wednesday, the Rocket League team lost their first game 0-3 against the Miami Redhawks, but won their second game 3-1 against the Eastern Michigan Eagles. Though the Golden Flashes won one of their 2 matches, they unfortunately did fall from first to 4th in the standings. If you're interested, the Rocket League team plays BG at 8 and Buffalo at 9 tonight. The Valorant team plays Eastern Michigan tomorrow at 8 p.m. and BG next Tuesday at 8. You can catch them live on the Esports KSU on Twitch. After the break, we've got Street Fighter.
Street Fighter? Why, I barely even know her.
Dude. All systems go. We'll be right back. Dear viewer, you know that here at ASG we would never lie to you, unless it was really funny. We don't have anything on Street Fighter, as you might believe from our awesome tease. Rather, Cohlman has for us a video on Marvel vs. Capcom. Please enjoy.
This one's gonna take you for a ride.
This moment, right here, is when the fighting game community's hearts changed forever. On June 18th, 2024, during a Nintendo Direct, we got one of the most exciting announcements of the entire year. Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection Arcade Classics. A collection featuring some of the highest regarded and legally obscure fighting games in history. Yeah, there's an entire legal limbo story behind this that I will not go into today because that is not the point of this video. Today, we're going to take a look at the Marvel vs. Capcom collection released last week on the Nintendo Switch, PS4, and Steam to see if it truly is the love letter we've been wanting. Now, before we look at the collection itself, I do want to go on a bit of a crash course of these games to those that are unfamiliar with them. 1993 sees the release of The Punisher, the first game in the Capcom and Marvel partnership. It's a side-scrolling action game in the vein of Final Fight where players take control of the Punisher as he takes down the gangs that killed his family. Next year, we see the release of X-Men, Children of the Atom. Being based off of Street Fighter II, this is the first one-on-one fighting game in the lineup to see the super jumping, marvelous combo-based gameplay we all know and love. In September 1996, Marvel Super Heroes releases, expanding on the formula that Children of the Atom established and diving into the other corners of Marvel's catalog of characters like Spider-Man, Captain America, Iron Man, Hulk, and Doctor Doom, just to name a few. In the exact same month, X-Men vs. Street Fighter comes out. This is the first game in the series to not only cross over 2 of the company's biggest IPs, X-Men and Street Fighter, but also to feature 2-on-2 tag team fighting, hyper combos, and crossover combination attacks in the gameplay. Fast forward to March 1997, we get Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, which is essentially an expanded X-Men vs. Street Fighter, featuring more of Marvel's catalog to take on Team Street Fighter, along with introducing crossover assists. Then, in 1998, Marvel vs. Capcom Clash of Superheroes releases, the biggest jump in the Versus series yet. Icons from all across Marvel and Capcom's catalog are featured with even more options than before, with duo team attacks and special partner systems. Finally, in 2000, we see one of gaming's biggest sensations.
Marvel vs. Capcom 2. New Age of Heroes.
A roster of 56 characters and new 3-on-3 battles add new layers to the strategic battles of the series. The brand new Team Hyper Combo system allows for up to 3 characters to all perform hyper combos at once, giving players the ability to unleash unbelievable damage. There were 2 other games that preceded Marvel 2, being Marvel vs. Capcom 3 and Infinite. However, we're just going to jump straight to this collection to avoid this video from being super long. Now to dive into the collection itself. In it, you get arcade versions of the 7 games I went over, plus extra features like being able to customize the difficulty, filtering, button layout, flashes, etc. This is amazing to see, as most of these fighting games have never seen faithful arcade re-releases. Each game prior to this collection was really only accessible on their original console hardware, even after a few re-releases of some of these games. So to see them be as robust in features as they are now is purely awesome. In addition to the new general quality of life improvements, some of these games also get their own new additions in the form of newly playable characters. In Children of the Atom, Juggernaut and Magneto are now fully playable after previously being inaccessible. Very OP characters, might I add. In the case of Marvel superheroes, Doctor Doom, Thanos, and Anita become playable. Again, mostly more overpowered characters. Mostly. Finally, MSHVSF now lets you play as cyber-freaking Akuma. Akuma is already pretty menacing as is, but you give him wings, extra arms, and abilities, and you're looking at the ultimate friendship destroyer. Each of the other games mainly feature altered stages and reduced flashing. So we fundamentally have the definitive release of all these games. Not to mention we now have online play and training modes for them as well, packed with hitboxes and frame data galore. This truly puts these games over the top. But that's not even it. On top of all these games having all these added features and improvements, we also have a museum that features artwork and OSTs of all the games featured, including the creative work made for this collection. And this doesn't just include general artwork, by the way. We have never before seen concept art of these games. This is just amazing. God bless. Now, even though I just praise this game as a masterpiece, and it mostly is, there are a few points of criticism to bring up. First off, the lack of crossplay with online battles is rather unfortunate. Sure, it's not really second nature yet for these games to include crossplay. However, some of the games' install bases, like the Xbox version for instance, may be smaller than others. Speaking of which, the Xbox One version. Why do we have to wait until 2025 for the Xbox version? I know this doesn't affect me, but it affects a lot of players that really want to play this game. And I get it. Apparently it's because this collection utilizes the MT Framework engine, which was never formatted for Xbox One, nor was it formatted for the current generation of consoles. This is very weird to me. You limit the install base of this collection by tackling it this way. Now, thankfully, thanks to backwards compatibility, you can still play these games on modern hardware. It's actually how I'm doing so right now. But it's still very strange to me. Other minor things for me are the lack of an immediate rematch in online versus mode, and some very peculiar balance patches in the games themselves. Again, nothing that a casual fan is going to notice. It's something for me personally with how huge of a fan I am of these titles and how invested I am in them. With that being said, these cons that I mentioned are mostly minor and they really do not take away from how amazing this collection turned out to be. Overall, the Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection is one of, if not the best Capcom collection released from the sheer quality and quantity of games alone. All of these titles hold a candle to a legacy in the fighting game community, and the fact that Marvel and Capcom were able to work with each other again to re-release all these games with the new features and improvements make myself and others really happy. Marvel vs. Capcom is back. We did this together. This is a victory we shall never forget. If you're in for a fun blast from the past featuring Marvel or Capcom, this collection is absolutely essential. It is currently available digitally on Switch, PlayStation 4, and Steam, with physical versions set to come out on November 22nd and an Xbox One version to release in 2025. Here's hope that this collection will spawn a Marvel vs. Capcom 4. Thank you all for watching.
After the break, Garrett and some of the cast talk about some summer movies. All systems go. We'll be right back.
I got the chance to see a lot of new movies this summer, and luckily for me, all of them were really good. Today, we'll be discussing the best movies of the summer and maybe some that weren't as good. All right, so this is a kind of discussion about movies that we all saw this summer, maybe a little bit of a kind of an award show type deal. So let's go over the movies that came out this summer that we saw this summer. We'll start with you.
Yeah, so I didn't really see too many movies this summer, but I did see one new movie, and then I watched a bunch of old movies. But the new movie that I got to watch, I watched in May. It was Challengers, which was amazing, honestly. I really loved it. And I'm not really like a sports movie guy. I don't know if you can kind of call that a sports movie. I guess it is, but it kind of isn't.
Yeah.
But I found it really enjoyable. The performance was great. The writing was great. I can't really think of many negatives about that film, honestly. I'm trying to think of like specifics because it's been a few months.
Yeah. All right. What about you, Laz?
I saw a total of one movie this summer.
Well, that's fine. What was
it? It was Twisters.
Twisters.
Which,
sequel to Twister.
Yeah, which I didn't know until I looked it up on Wikipedia.
Twisters. Of course it's a sequel.
Yeah,
there's two Twisters in it.
Darn, I should have known. Yeah, it did have the twin tornadoes at the end, which I thought.
Fire tornado versus the ice tornado.
Yeah, and I remember the reason I looked it up on Wikipedia was because I noticed that the movie, it ended in El Reno, which made me think, oh, like the two really big tornadoes from the early 2010s, I think, at some point, that made one 2 mile wide tornado.
Yeah.
And it's the second worst tornado, but only because of the way that it's measured.
What did you see, Andy?
Well, I only see one.
A lot of wonders.
And that is Maxine. Was gonna see Deadpool and Wolverine, but didn't get a chance to do that yet. But I think Maxine is actually really underrated for a slasher flick.
And it's the third movie in a series, right?
Yeah,
it's X, Pearl, and Max. Are they related? Was it related to X?
Yes. X. So Maxine is a continuation of X. It follows the story of the final girl, Maxine Mings. That's why it's called Maxine.
I see. Yes. What did you see, Brian?
So basically, over the summer, I saw Inside Out 2. I forget what day. I forget if it was release day or the day after, but I do know one thing, and it was pretty much self-explanatory after the first one about how Riley's emotions evolve, just going through complex teenage years. We've all been there.
A lot of complex emotions. All of them negative for some reason. I didn't really...
Not all of them.
Well,
but did they push the puberty button?
Oh, yeah. I think it went off on its own. I think there was an alarm more than
I saw quite a few movies this summer. I saw Kinds of Kindness, the new Yorgos Lanthimos, of course. I saw Furiosa, the second, or I guess the prequel in the new Mad Max movie series. George Miller, love him. I saw Longlegs, just such a great movie. And I saw Cuckoo, which was also really good. And I think we should talk about actors that really blew it out of the water this summer. I'm going to start. I think that Chris Hemsworth gave a really good performance as the main antagonist in Furiosa. What was his name? Dementis. That isn't his name. Dementis the White, then Dementis the Red, then Dementis the Black as his character evolves. What about you?
That's tough. I mean, I saw the only new movie that I saw over the summer was Challengers. So I think
Zendaya was in that.
Zendaya gave a really good performance. I'm trying to think of the actors' names of the two guys. If anyone can lifeline me here.
I don't remember.
I am the least movie person ever.
I don't either.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
No, that's good. But Zendaya gave a really good performance in that. And it made me kind of dislike her character a lot, which is really good whenever a movie can actually do that properly.
Actor you like, they don't like it?
Yeah, I thought it was doing.
Did anyone else have an actor they really liked?
I mean, I can add on to that. I had very similar feelings about, I don't know his name, but the guy who played the cowboy tornado chaser, because oh my gosh, he was the exact person, the exact kind of person that just grinds my gears so bad. So kudos to the actor.
Yeah. Well, it looks like we all saw some pretty good movies. All those out here, except kind of Maxine, but got pretty good reviews. And after the break, Eric made another Kingdom Hearts video. All systems go. We'll be right back.
How many shows give an in-depth review about a single Kingdom Hearts world that only appeared once? We've got Eric breaking down Wonderland in KH1.
Hey paisanos, welcome to the Disney World Review, a series about comparing the worlds in Kingdom Hearts to the original movies they're based on. I would have called it something else, but this seemed like it would do well with the algorithm. If you don't know what Kingdom Hearts is, here's the TLDR version. Kingdom Hearts is a JRPG crossover between Final Fantasy and the Disney animated canon developed by Square Enix. It follows the adventures of Sora, who wields the legendary Keyblade, a weapon that can destroy creatures of darkness called the Heartless. After his world is consumed by the Heartless, Sora travels with his two companions, Donald and Goofy, to stop the Heartless from doing the same to other worlds and maybe find their friends along the way. There's more to it than that, but that's the relevant info.
Oh, did you get that?
No! Each world our heroes visit is directly based on a Disney movie, with the first one you go to in Kingdom Hearts 1 being Wonderland from Alice in Wonderland. Before I get into the main attraction, I wanted to note that I tried to read the original The Adventures of Alice in Wonderland book. Emphasis on tried? I got about halfway through it, but it's nearly identical to the movie, so I don't think I'm missing out on much. Alright, now to the main attraction. When you first enter Wonderland, you must go through the rabbit hole and then enter an area called the Bazaar Room, where you and your party must shrink down by drinking a very suspicious bottle to go through a hole behind the bed. Skipping most of what Alice had to do in the original movie. This is where the world's main gimmick lies. Throughout the world, you're constantly shrinking and growing to solve puzzles and move forward, and it's a neat idea. I wish they did more of using it during combat, because when you're giant, or normal size depending on how you see it, no enemies spawn. The Bazaar Room itself is also interesting, because in the original movie, it's mostly just a black room with a table. Here they flesh it out so it's full of objects and items to use for puzzle solving and side quests. I can't say the same for the rest of the world though. After you enter the hole behind the bed, you reach the courtroom of the Queen of Hearts castle, where Alice, yes, we're finally meeting the main character, is on trial for stealing the Queen's heart. SDG, that's shorthand for Sora, Donald, and Goofy for you non-Keyblade masters, know that the Heartless was behind it. Sora immediately jumps to Alice's defense, while Donald gets upset that Sora's getting them involved, and Goofy just kinda stands there. This is a pretty solid character moment for Sora and helps establishes the dynamic for SDG. It's the first time we get to see Sora's main character trait, which is just selflessness. We could assume that about him being the generic JRPG hero that he is, but this helps reaffirm it by breaking the one rule Donald set for them. That rule being no meddling, which is the cosmic travel equivalent of if you see someone on the ground being beat up, don't get involved. But it's good for Sora's character that he does get involved. This world doesn't keep that quality the entire time you're here for it, but it's a nice start. The Queen tells the trio if they want to prove Alice isn't guilty, they need to find some evidence that it wasn't her who committed the crime. And that's when the world really gets going. After this point, you've got to collect a bunch of items and present them to the Queen. That part is a bit underwhelming. From a story perspective, it was probably smart to skip straight to the trial, considering it the most climactic moment of the film. Although I will miss the hookah smoking caterpillar, it wasn't a great gameplay decision. All of the areas from here on out are very flat, but none of them are straightforward. The entire place has the energy of a Disneyland dark ride or one of those play places meant for small children. In addition, not a single door leads you to the next logical place. Sometimes you'll go through one and it'll have you walking in the ceiling of a different room. All of these confusing and weird landscapes make sense from a design perspective, but that doesn't change the fact it can still be hard to navigate. The entire world can range from very creative to kind of tacky and flat. The Cheshire Cat shows up and gives you some hints on where to go, but getting to every location is still kind of hard with the game's stiff platforming. And because you're still very on, all the enemy encounters are very basic, so combat can be kind of a drag and will mostly just waste your time. I will admit that finding the evidence is a creative way to promote exploration from the player, but it also backfires because you can just head back whenever you feel like it and start the next encounter early. Once you find the evidence, and I suggest you get all of it, since if you find all 5 pieces, you get the Blizzard spell a bit early, you do a small fight against the Queen of Hearts card army, which isn't really a challenge, although it does have a neat concept in that Donald and Goofy may be locked away depending on what evidence you found. The fight's still easy peasy, but points for trying. After the battle, it's revealed that Alice has been kidnapped by the Heartless for reasons that will become known later. SDG then make a run from the Queen's castle to try and find Alice. After searching, they eventually run into the Cheshire Cat again, who gives them a cryptic warning before fighting the boss Heartless of that world. Before I get into the boss fight, I want to talk about the Cheshire Cat, who is super weird. In the original movie, he just serves as a trickster who messes with Alice and gets her in trouble. Here he's pretty helpful and also seems to know what the Heartless are, something the vast majority of Disney characters don't know about. Characters who know about the lore outside of the world are saved for guys with real power, like the genie from Aladdin or King Triton from The Little Mermaid. But that's not where it stops with this cat. See, Kingdom Hearts got a manga adaptation. It's neat with some cute art, but it largely sticks to the story of the game with a few new ideas. One of these ideas is that the Cheshire Cat is some kind of trickster mentor who actually wants to see Sora succeed. He has the ability to summon boss-level Heartless and was offered a seat in the Disney Council of Villains by Maleficent, who is established to be the main villain of the story in a cutscene after this world. How is he this powerful? I don't know. How does he know so much? I don't know. What are his end goals? Couldn't tell you. But something I do know is that the Heartless he summons called the Trick Master, and it's a very controversial fight. Some think it's annoying and takes too long, but I think it's a cool, direct way to teach the player about spatial awareness when fighting and the elemental weaknesses that can be used during combat. It's also cool that the arena you fight him in is an arena you probably have a lot of practice moving around. Although it is a weird decision to have the first real boss fight of the game spend half of the fight being too high up to hit. After you wail on the Trick Master enough, he goes down and gets close to the world's keyhole. The world's keyhole is like a world's heart. If the Heartless get to it, the world will fall to darkness and fade away. And surprise, surprise, that keyhole is in the mouth of the sleeping doorknob.
That's very important!
It is cool that the keyhole is a tangible object from the movie though. It's a nice little addition. Most of these movies don't get that. Overall, Wonderland is an appropriately very weird world. It's very confusing. It does not follow many of the translator worlds will follow. This makes it stand out as unique, but it also makes it a not very good first world. It also feels as though it was the first world developed too. It outright ignores iconic imagery from the movie like the crossroads tree, and it cannot convey the size of the Queen's castle at all. The world doesn't visually capture the beauty of the movie, but it does get down that bizarre anything can happen tone. It's also weird how almost all of the most interesting puzzles are for optional content. If you're going for the hidden items, this world gets a lot more fun. But if you're just here to go through the plot of the movie, seal up the keyhole, and then leave, you're not going to get much out of it. Honestly, it has pretty strong design, but a horrible placement. If I had to rate it, I would probably give it a C+ with an A for effort. Also, anyone who says the Trickmaster is hard is bitch made.
That's all the time we have for this week's episode of All Systems Go.
Follow our Instagram for some fun behind-the-scenes content and YouTube for our past episodes. All Systems Go, signing off.